Welcome to Canada's Entrepreneur, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen across Canada and deliver the news, trends, knowledge, and opinions from entrepreneurs and business influencers across the country.
Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Joining me today is Andrew Brooks, who is founder of Had To Holdings in Calgary. Thanks, Andrew, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Let me ask you just a little bit first about the company. Tell me a bit about what it does.
Well, I think I can tell you a little bit about what it does by maybe saying where the name came from as well, because I think that really does clarify it a bit. So, I've run several companies as a CEO, and I was running a company when this idea took place. You can almost sense really where I'm going already, but I was deep in the trenches, navigating the boardroom politics. I almost had a different word there. Shifting priorities, the kind of sort of circular decision making where nothing gets done and it kills momentum. And at that point, I thought to myself, I don't want to do this anymore. Hey, this is just noise. So said to myself, I have to do something. So I had to do something different, and that's where that came from. So not a branding exercise, no big fancy thing, just the honest truth, which is again a principle of what I deal with. And sometimes you don't need to wait for a consensus. You act, you lead, you solve, and those are the types of things that I wanted to do with Had To Holdings. So that's what it's built on: sort of clarity over confusion, action over ego and pride, and results that make a difference and matter. So really, that's the essence of where it came from. But I could tell you a little bit about what I do or what the company does, if that's something you want to look at.
Yeah, please do it.
All right. So essentially, there's several services, but I act a lot as a fractional CEO. So I step into companies during inflection points. Sometimes it's growth, sometimes it's transition, sometimes it's gridlock, leaders and boards and others just not communicating properly, and it's going nowhere and it's going there fast. It's almost like losing weight or gaining weight. You can gain it very quickly, but to lose it, it takes a lot more effort. And I think sometimes people get stuck in those gridlock times when they just can't get anywhere. So for somebody like me, I'm not there to impress anybody. Really couldn't care less about that. I'm just there to help make decisions, get things moving, align people around what actually matters. And frankly, right now, fractional CEOs are in demand. There's tight budgets, so you don't have the overhead, and they need to get things moving in the right directions. And one of the things, I do say everybody has a story, but one thing that I look at is most turnarounds, business turnarounds, not oil sector turnarounds, but they don't start with a strategy, really. They start with somebody just telling the truth. It's almost, you can't always find that. Secondly, as an ICD certified director, I sit on a number of boards, both volunteer and other. Part of it is I want to give back and be part of the community and doing things that don't necessarily get you a pat on the back or an attaboy, because I see governance as having the hard conversations early and then bringing clarity where it's needed. And so many times you just have the round and round, and somebody has an idea and they get stuck on it. You can't get anywhere. And that's why I've created this company, but it is what I do. Cut to the chase, get rid of the fluff. Let's move this thing forward. Let's see, I've also spoken on panels at several events, typically around leadership transitions and Indigenous economic development. And in fact, I've brokered several Indigenous partnership deals, mostly because I take a direct, honest, and just respectful approach. I really believe the titles don't matter. It's more about clarity, getting to the point, not letting things idle and sit, like get into it and then solve the issue. There's no such thing in my view as the monkey in the room. We just deal with it and get on with it. So real leadership and no more slogans or strategy decks. They sit and they gather dust, in my opinion. You get a lot of momentum. You go to these strategy events, everybody's happy. We're all together. Rah, rah. This is beautiful. and then it slowly fades as the business has to take action on several things, or there's fires to put out. So, excuse me, important to have the strategy, obviously, but the culture to go with it is much more important. Anyway, I'll wrap this up. So that's what Had To Holdings does. We bring leadership, capital at times, and certainly experience. But more than anything, we bring perspective. Sometimes that means stepping into the role. Sometimes it means stepping aside and just connecting people. I also work with partners who understand the market extremely well. We raise money when it makes sense. We broker deals when there's long-term value. And at times we walk away when it's all noise and ego. So really, that's basically what I do. Keeps me busy.
So, yeah.
And sort of out of trouble.
Yeah. So, Andrew, just out of, I guess, your background, maybe talk a little bit about that. Like, what kind of businesses and industries have you been in prior to this?
Yeah. So I've been in the oil industry, obviously, on the contractor side, some of the major companies. I won't give the names, of course, but some of the major companies I worked with in infrastructure and construction, a lot in the oil sands. I spent quite a bit of time doing those things. And interesting thing I think about me is I am a CPA, but I don't really focus on that. I came up through the ranks that way, and those are the days that, if you're an accountant, they don't look at you as being the leader, and I always looked at that as just a bunch of nonsense. Again, I almost said a different word there, because I really thought a lot about what's going on. So I rose up through the ranks. I eventually became a CFO and then transitioned into a CEO role. Ran a company that anytime I've run a company as a CEO, it's done well. It's not an ego thing. Those are just facts. But I think it comes from having the right people around you. So that was maintenance, oil sands maintenance. I've done quite a bit of that. I ran a company just as a fractional guy, an interim contract CEO, the Alberta Roadbuilders, and helped them find their CEO, who's doing a great job. So construction, oil sands, infrastructure, I've worked in the steel industry for quite some time as well, again, as a CEO, and I changed that up as well. Always looking for ways to not pigeonhole yourself. So that's essentially what I've been doing.
Let's talk a little bit about leadership. What makes a good leader?
Yeah, that's such a great question. It's pretty open-ended, I think, too. But I think there's a couple of major things, and that is telling the truth, but also being vulnerable. You don't have all the answers. And frankly, earlier on in my career, I sat with somebody who was a seasoned CEO, and I said, "Man, I'm now a new CEO at the time, quite some time ago." I said, "This is kind of hard. You're expected to know everything all the time and have all the answers." And his response to me was, "No, that's not true. And you need to know all the answers. You need to be truthful. You need to surround yourself with the right people, develop a culture where everybody knows where they're going and what their roles are, and then stay on top of it." And I really understood that, and I've stayed true to that. I think it's more the people than anything else. You have to have your strategy in place, but you have to have the right people, and you have to be able to challenge each other, respectfully, and all the petty nonsense that goes on just needs to be cleared. So I think that's what a leader does and what leadership is. It clears the road for the others, the very talented people, to take charge and move forward, and you clear the road for them. That's how I see it. And when you do that, the results are unbelievable.
And maybe that ties into my question here is what are the consequences of poor leadership?
Yeah. It's funny because not everybody has, the talent or the intellect or whatever else is needed to come up with great ideas. You need everybody. And as soon as you allow them the freedom to come up with ideas and challenge the norms, and you do it in a way that is risk-free, so they don't have to feel like, oh, if I bring this up, that's people are going to think I'm dumb, or they're going to think whatever else they want to think. When you remove that, the consequences of it are are typically growth, but also your culture just improves completely. You come to work with a smile on your face. You're not, hanging your head when you come in saying, "Oh, I have to deal with George today because he's pissed off about something." And you just don't have that. Those kind of things disappear. Hey, you got to drop your kids off at school early. Well, you go ahead and do that. No one cares. You don't have people in the hallway whispering to each other. It just changes the entire dynamic, and you're all going for the same thing. And in my experience, it's been every time when you do that, it's been successful, and sometimes wildly successful.
Do you think people are born leaders?
No, I don't. And I say that because I always called myself an extroverted introvert. Um, and I think that why I call myself that is because there was times when I would never get up in front of a group and talk and do all those things, but I had to learn how to do that. And then you get better and better at it as you do. And I think it's the same basic thing with leadership. You need to get in and surround yourself with good people. But you really have to have the experience over time if you want to be a good leader or a great leader. You've seen what works. You've been there. You're calm under pressure. You see the future better than most because you've been there before. And I think so. Then you're not necessarily born. You have to have some attributes, obviously, but I think you can become a leader if you're given the opportunity and the backing and again, the risk-free environment to be able to say what you're thinking without retribution.
But examples like
Yeah.
examples, say, of good leaders. Like, are there any ones that come to mind for you
Yeah.
that you noticed out there that even maybe some people here would know?
Yeah. Um, so there's a couple of chairs I've worked with. Some were absolutely brutal, to be honest, but there was one at Waiward. He was the chair when I first started, and he was there for about 90% of the time. Very factual. I had a call with him once a week. We had conversations about things. We got to know each other, and the issues that we're facing. So it became a truth thing, not a show up at a board meeting and try and, poke holes in something. Um, he was excellent. He also asked questions about in board meetings as well, but casually on the phone as well about people and what was the sentiment? How are people feeling? How are you addressing that? And you normally don't get that. To be honest, I did a talk. I was on a panel in Vancouver on LNG stuff, and at some point I just dropped my notes and I just said, I had a conversation. It was about partnerships with Indigenous people, and one of the guys that I had in a partnership with was on the panel. Just a fabulous guy, and that was with LNG Canada. Just an excellent guy. And him and I had become partners, and he runs an Indigenous group, and I run the contractor group. I dropped my notes and I said, he's an excellent leader, by the way, but it's those things when you're stuck on looking at, you lost a 0.5% on a margin, or you gained a 0.5%, or you're slightly behind, or you're slightly above your budgets, and you just are getting pummeled because of that. I found that to be completely useless. And those guys, Jerry Proddy was another one. He was a chair for me at one point. A guy named Bill Lingard that some people may know. He used to run Flint years ago, and he went on to, run some of their subsequent companies that when Flint was acquired. These were people who could see through the clouds and through the bushes, and they would really inspire you rather than, picking holes and trying to make it look like you're not doing something. They were the types that I gravitated to every time. Just solid people with solid backgrounds too, not just their CV or their employment background, but family and strength and honesty. Well, you gravitate towards those people if you see it. And the flip side is, maybe it's a better way to look at leadership too, is there's leaders at times that want to be the loudest in the room, that their idea is the only idea. if you don't follow that idea, there must be something that you're not doing right. And those are the types that I shy away from. That if you can't have or challenge, that's the other way, and then it becomes a bit of a shit show, to be honest. Um, so those are the ones I stay away from. The ones that I gravitate to and I learn from, and I think are the best leaders, are the ones that encourage, help you when it's tough, know when to kick your butt, but also when to, say, attaboy, and you did a good job here. I think those things are very important, super important to me. And I do that now. I'm now in those positions where I'm able to support and help leaders. And I think I'm an expert in that, to be honest. I know what they're going through, and I can help and relieve their pressure and then get their company going in the right direction.
Now, when you look obviously at the word leader, it implies obviously that you have followers, right? And so in
Right.
companies, when you're looking at leaders, some of the traits that they have, and how difficult is it to be a good leader if you're not good at what your job is and doing your job?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I still think it comes down to some very basic human factors. Honesty being the top one. You're not perfect, and you can't expect it to be perfect, and you shouldn't hold yourself to that standard. You have to do the best you possibly can. But if you're honest, and I don't like just throwing buzzwords around like integrity and those types of things, but those are super important. What it is it, that drives you as a person, your own personal values. I think that's what makes a better leader, rather than following a strategy that you may not believe in or not trying to change it. I really think it's about being clear and honest and straightforward, but that comes with time. You, as a new leader, will say it's not easy, because you're looking at all these people who are, hey, they've done this before. They're great. They're fantastic. They must know what they're doing. Even though you feel like maybe there's a different way, you don't always do that as a younger leader. And those people need the help,
Yeah. Now,
and they will become good leaders.
I was going to ask you just now a little bit about Calgary, and you know,
Yeah.
how have you found, I guess, doing business in Calgary, and I guess more from the perspective
Yeah.
of the mentality, I guess, and the business mentality here.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because, I wasn't born in Calgary, but I've been here most of my life. I was actually born in Victoria. My father was in the Navy, and then we did some traveling and ended up on a farm out here, and went to grade one out on a farm in Springbank, and then essentially been here ever since. Did some overseas work and that type of thing, but my base has been Calgary. But I always, we all know Calgary's economy has always had cycles. Not the traditional, some of the old timers, and maybe I would be one of those, where we said, "Oh, don't worry, another boom will come," and all that nonsense. I think we're so far past that. But the challenge now, as I see it, is we're kind of stuck. Too many companies are stuck in a bit of a holding pattern. Costs are up, margins are thin, the rules seem to keep changing. Lease rates are climbing. I came out of the hockey game last night going down 17th Avenue, and my God, the amount of businesses that are closing and opening, closing, opening, closing, opening. It's tough to make it here. Uh, we got taxes that keep coming up. We got payroll is rising. It's a pretty tough environment. And if we're waiting for a return to what we may have called normal, I think that's long gone. And the ones I think that are going to make it are the ones that are already thriving, to be honest. Uh, Even so, a lot of talk politically and otherwise, there's talk about diversification, but really, it seems to me there's not enough backbone for the grind it takes to actually diversify. Everybody wants innovation, but very few at this point take the risk. Now, we never used to be this way, but very few want the risk or the runway that comes with it. Uh, Now, having said that, I'm still really, quite bullish on Calgary's next chapter. We do have the energy, both the sector and the mindset. We have capital, we have talent. I think we need a little more cross-industry courage. We've seen them. There's things happening. There's smart bets being made in companies like logistics, ag tech, clean energy, lots of indigenous-led ventures. A new generation is sort of emerging from all this. But again, when I look at Calgary, I think our asset is not really just our industry and our traditional industries, but excuse me, it's our resilience. Like the Flames are up to, they got a couple of games left and they're still in it, and they're still fighting for it. And I think that's emblematic, I think, a little bit of Calgary. We're resilient. We've taken a lot of hits. Boy, have we taken some hits, but we still show up. And I think that's an important thing. Very bullish on what Calgary has and what will look like in the future. And looking forward to some changes, politically as well. I think that can help us.
So before we sign off here, Andrew, just wanted to touch a little bit. You did mention earlier about being on boards and stuff like that, but I'm curious to talk a little bit about the volunteer boards that you're on and
yeah. Sure. There's one that I've been involved with for probably 10, maybe more than 10 years now. It's the Calgary Drug Treatment Court. Just an unbelievably strong group of people, mostly lawyers and police and a few others, and then you get me thrown in there as well. And that's one of the reasons I like doing that is it has a major impact on our society, but not very many people know about it unless you're in the system. And it's something, for people who have had to be convicted, typically of drugs and other things, to have a program that allows them to connect with their family, to get a job, to be treated with a little more respect, and for them to come out on the other side on top and be a contributing member of society. I love that. And that group works extremely hard. I'm on the board, so I don't do the work that the actual people do. And they are outstanding, and it's great to see it. And we're a very successful group. There's drug treatment courts all over the place. Maybe could be more, but ours is one of the best, and that's why I do that.
Cool.
I sat on the board for the Center for All Abilities. That was raising capital. Unfortunately, that didn't go where we needed it to go. That's that park that's up by the airport there. There's some WestJet land that's beside it. We were trying to build. There's a running track and a few other things there. We were trying to build something that was for the entire community. You go to one place. It's really hard for a community if you're down on your luck and you're asked to go to 6 different places and you have to take a bus. Chances are you're not doing it. So our idea was to bring all that together under one roof. And we worked hard with the Rotary Club, and we weren't able to get it moving where we needed to. Part of it was, we didn't have all the permitting that was required, etc. But that was good. And then I guess one other that I'm on right now is the Future of Energy, run by Jim Kinnear's group. And I think that's superb. He's really, now there's a guy who could put some things forward and take the risk, and he's trying to do that. So I'm trying to help with that as well, so that we get some people talking about things that are, again, just straightforward and where we're heading and what we're doing and what are the best ways to go. So those types of things I do quite a bit.
All right, wonderful. Thanks, Andrew, for joining us today.
Anytime. I appreciate it.
Right, that was Andrew Brooks, who is founder of Had To Holdings in Calgary. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us today,
where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen across Canada and deliver the news, trends, knowledge, and opinions from entrepreneurs and business influencers across the country.